Hey, this is Lyndon here from Accurate Auto Clinic out in Palatine. Today we're going to be discussing the importance of oil changes. What you see in front of you is a V6 engine. It's got the pistons and crankshaft still in it. It's basically the core, the heart of the engine. This is what does all the mean work. This is what's all heavy duty and takes the brunt of everything. And what you see here, this black stuff, is actually oil. This is what happens when we have oil coking. That's a result of lack of oil changes. It stays in there too long and eventually it turns to a solid. And you can see that in the oil pan that came off of that engine. You can see the clumps of black stuff that's in here. And this is actually what covers up what you were just seeing, the crankshaft and the rods. This was actually the head that came off of that vehicle, and you can see it's just got like clumps of mud on top of it. And again, this is all from just lack of oil changes. This is actually oil turned into a solid from being cooked and just used for way too long. All of this stuff, you can see how chunky and solid it gets. Now what ends up happening is that chunky solid matter gets put in to our oil valleys, our holes that feed fresh pressurized oil to the engine. You can kind of see right there that little tiny hole. Well, that's one of those oil passages I'm talking about. So you can kind of see that if we got all this clumpy nasty stuff, it's not going to flow too well through those little holes. Now what ends up happening in the end result is that on this motor at least, we had a lack of lubrication to the cylinders. And when I say that, what I specifically mean is the rod bearing. You can actually see here the journal on the crankshaft is pretty scratched up in comparison to a good one right there. It's all nice and shiny and clean. This guy, you can see how it's pretty torn up in there. And then also, this is the other side of it, the cap for the crankshaft rod. Now, this is what the worst part is in here. It actually bound this motor up so bad to where you see that hole and then you see the little crack going sideways. It actually cracked the rod, is how violently this happened. Kind of for a good reference, you can see here on the left, these are good bearings. That's our cap. Well, I wouldn't so much call them good. They're pretty worn out, but they're nowhere near as what came out of the bad cylinder. You can see how badly torn up and tattered that thing is, and that's actually the other half of it, at least what's left of it. And you can kind of see when I turn these around how nice and uniform that is, but yet you can see how this one, when it was flattened and crushed and spun, how it kind of oozed out the sides. Short to say, this engine's done. It's actually cheaper to replace it with a boneyard or a salvage engine than to repair it at this point because of all the metal, all that solid oil that's been passed through the motor. To get that all out and reverse all the damage is much more costly than just getting another running engine and putting it in. So hopefully this will help out some people with your scheduled maintenance of oil changes. You know, there's been a lot of debate how some cars can go 5,000, 7,000 miles. This is one of those type of things where we stick to the 3,000 mile regime when you're using normal oil because in essence, it's the cheapest warranty that you can provide on your car. Every year, $100 worth of oil changes, and it'll prevent you from purchasing a motor or damaging it in the long term. Have a great day.